So, Seth, I've spent a couple of times about 5 feet from you, and I think we've said about 10 words total to each other on set. But it's great to actually spend some time.
Yeah, I'm usually running from one place to another or stressing out about some production crisis. But
All right. So, getting into it, just kind of curious, what was it like? I know the previous 2 seasons, several different directors, with just having you and John Cassar.
it was a pure joy. I mean, John is, I it's interesting. I've worked with a lot of really great directors on that show. John is somebody who I just clicked with in every way. It's tough when neither of us had ever really been in a situation where you're essentially co-directing, because when you're directing, it's like your instinct is to just take control of everything. Neither of us had ever been in a situation on other shows where we could really coexist in that way efficiently, and here we did. I mean, we really were two arms of the same organism. And he came in and directed pieces of my episodes. I did some of his. It was a real collaborative experience, and I don't know that it's ever been. I mean, this is a guy who I'll be working with for the rest of my life in some capacity. Um, he's just phenomenal, and it was a lot easier because in many ways, with when you're working with multiple directors, as great as they are, um, you are kind of. It can turn into a game of telephone where there's a lot of levels to go through, and when really you just want to walk up to the actor and say, you know what, here's what I need, rather than go through channels. So it's just, for our show, it really was a better process. Plus, we block shot a lot of the episodes, which obviously means that we weren't shooting. We were shooting a different piece of a different episode every day, because there were only 10. So if you were in the desert, or if you were on an alien ship, it was something that you were going to need to use in another episode. You want to get all your scenes for the season before they rip that set down. So in that sense, it by necessity, it had to be John and I doing it for the season. But it was just a lot of fun.
All right. Um, so, with the shorter episode or shorter season, but longer episodes, did season three feel more like film cinematic to shoot than on broadcast?
Yeah, very, very much so. And that was the idea. That going into season, that was one of the reasons that we left Fox, was that it was it just Black Mirror had aired their most recent season. I think it was the one where they did the 3 episodes. It was the guy who was the standoff in the car. I think there was the one. It was the two guys having the relationship over VR, and then the Miley Cyrus episode, which was really light and like really kind of like rompish, but at the same time was felt like a little movie. And I remember seeing that particular installment and saying, that's tonally kind of what we've been doing, but it really feels more like a movie because they can take the time. They just have the time. They don't have to condense it into 43 minutes exactly to fit a network model. And that was a huge ad- advantage for us to be able to kind of ditch that structure and just if let the story dictate the length. A show could be 38 minutes or it could be 65 minutes. It just depends on what the story requires. And so that was a big adjustment that really shifted our tone for the better. I think these are some of the best shows that we've done.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, having seen a couple of them now, they're phenomenal. So did you anticipate actually how successful the Orville would end up being?
No, no. I think at this point, I still won't really have a sense of it until this season finishes airing. I think in an odd way, the pandemic was something that it benefited the Orville in a strange way, in the same way that Family Guy, the absence of Family Guy and its cancellation benefited that show. It seems like something that would hurt us, but people were home. They were looking for things to watch, and eventually, when they had exhausted all other possibilities, they found their way to the Orville. And people who were not aware of the show or had thought that written it off as a silly parody comedy on Fox maybe hadn't given it a chance. So I think that little break was something that allowed people to discover it. And I think you just never know. I mean, when Family Guy came back, no one was really prepared for how many people were suddenly watching it. They just kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if that's going to happen here. It would certainly be wonderful if it did, but we're about to find out.
So has working with people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Andre Bermanis changed anything major in the direction that the show went?
Not specifically. I mean, Andre's been with us since the beginning. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Neil is. I've known Neil for years, so those elements have stayed pretty constant. I think early on, I would actually attempt to write technobabble, and then Andre would go in and fix it. Season 3, I think I just got to the point where I would put the character's name, and then in parentheses it would just say Andre here, and Andre would go in and write. He would write out the technical jargon and make it something that at least theoretically is grounded in some sort of real science, even if it's really out there and fringe. But no, he's been with us since day one. Andre is just an indispensable part of this show.
So, who is most like their character?
That's a very good question. Who is most like their? I would say, possibly Scott Grimes. Possibly Scott Grimes. He's very much like Gordon. I'm going through the cast in my head to see. Yeah, I would say Scott's probably the most like his character. Yeah.
All right. So, other than COVID, what challenge did season 3 present?
It was really just about scope. I mean, we were the shows that you've seen they're big, but they're really almost modest compared to what's coming later in the season. I mean, we were really reaching for something ambitious, and hopefully we pulled it off. I mean, our visual effects team this year they have climbed a mountain overall. They've just done a phenomenal job. Brandon Fayette and Brooke Noska and our team. It's just an amazing bunch. And these vendors, Fuse FX among others, which did so much work for us last year. They did the identity battle in season 2. They're all over this season, and their work has just been it was always great. It's reached the next level. They've done some things this season that are some things that actually have nothing to do with spaceships and space battles, that are very different technological achievements, that saying anything more would give away spoilers.
All right. So we had a recurring question come up on Twitter whenever we asked for a couple of questions to see what anybody wanted to have answered, and we got, does Ed have a middle name?
So that's a very good question. I have not assigned him a middle name. It's never come up. Right. I probably give that some thought.
So, May the Force be with you. Season 3 trailer. Was that a series of ad-lib takes, or was that actually scripted out?
No, that was in the script. That was in. We've hinted before that in the Orville universe, Star Wars existed in the past. So we figured, look, we've gone down that road. It's fine to lean into it. And Star Wars, it's so different from what the Orville is. in so many ways that we figure, all right, this is a safe thing to reference.
What do you see as the future of creative storytelling in a streaming context?
I mean, look, as a writer and a producer, there has never been a better time to be making television. I think this is the playground is just enormous. I mean, you can. There are so many platforms with so much space to fill, and people are actually spending money to make great filmic art in a lot of cases. And I at the moment, I it just seems to keep getting better and better. I know, the landscape's getting crowded, and you're getting to a point where you're reaching maximum saturation point in some cases. But from where I sit and my part of the industry is, the demand is there for all different kinds of programming, and I mean, it doesn't seem to be slowing down.
What are you looking forward to fans taking away after watching the new season?
I hope that they will come away feeling like they have had a full, nourishing meal from start to finish. I hope that in a perfect world, there's an appetite for more. But for me, it's and I've said this in other interviews. One of the things that's really missing to me in virtually everything, in this genre right now is moments. Um, the moment in Star Wars where Luke is standing on the dune, looking out at the two suns, and there's that swell of music, and they just take their time to create this moment that just it's not just plot exposition. It's not you're not just getting from A to B. You're stopping to really create a moment where people watching can feel something. There's a lot of that this season. There's a lot of moments that it's a lot of what they used to do in the 80s and in the early 90s. There used to be a real effort by directors and writers to when a ship launches, it's a big deal, and you want great music. You want to take a moment to really savor it, and that's something that I hope those moments are of value to fans, because we really tried to make them special this year. So that's certainly a big thing that I hope people will take away from our show that they may not be getting elsewhere.
So, assuming that this is going to get cut, how 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 deep can we go into season 3? I mean, I'm NDA'd, and
yeah, I mean, it's I'm like a fanatic when it comes to secrecy, mainly because there are things this season that are they're purely. I mean, there are things I would be ruining for you if I would be ruining your viewing experience if I told you the big ones. There are a lot of surprises. There are a lot of things that are very unexpected this year, and yeah, I mean, we've worked really, really hard to keep things as secret as possible, because, again, like, look, whatever the genre, if you're in comedy and you can surprise somebody with a punchline and make them laugh, that's the win. In drama, if you can surprise somebody with a plot twist or a new idea or something that they haven't thought of, it's a win. So that's always the goal, it's harder and harder in this day and age, but that's always the goal, is to keep things as under wraps as possible until that final hour when the show begins.
Yeah, being part of that, trying to keep it under wraps thing, and I think we're like Ben Tom's sort of secret spoiler wing for several years.
Yes.
But yeah, so cool. Not much else. Really looking forward to the rest of season 3. Looking forward to Ted kicking off as well, and potentially, actually having you on the podcast that is dedicated to your show at
Yeah,
some point. But
we really appreciate it. And I know Tom has passed that on to you. We pay a lot of attention to what the fans are reacting to, and in many cases it governs and heavily influences where we take our stories, and so it really is a dialogue in a lot of ways.
thanks again, Seth, for your time. Appreciate it.